to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. We all over the world, chat night Africa. We all over the world, chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. We all over the world, chat night Africa. We all over the world, chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, the only place that we give you good vibes. Chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, all over the world we are shining the light. Chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night.
Hello everyone, welcome to this special broadcast on Chat Night Africa. From hope to heartbreak, Cameroon's Constitutional Council has declared the incumbent President Paul Biya the winner of the presidential election. The verdict has sparked sharply divided reactions across the country. For supporters of Issa Chiroma, the announcement marks a bitter blow, one they claim was marked by injustices and irregularities. But for Mr. Biya's loyalists, it is a moment of triumph and validation, the continuation of a legacy they say the people have chosen to uphold. As the country stands at an inflection point between jubilation and despair, we ask the question, what next? What does the result mean for the millions who placed their hope in change? Ladies and gentlemen, this broadcast is not premised on prejudging the election outcome, that Paul Biya genuinely won, or that Issa Chiroma's victory was stolen. Instead, we will raise tough questions, but fair and balanced, regarding all the parties in the electoral dispute, and allow our panelists to the complete freedom to respond however they see fit. Ben Bongang is a political science journalism professor, and he also does lots of things in life. He teaches at the Savannah State University. My other panelist, Dr. Ben Aki, is an associate professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering. He is a federalist activist and serves as Secretary General of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists. Immediately after the results were proclaimed, this is what Mr. Issa Chiroma said. Let's watch his reaction. Mr. Issa Chiroma.
My dear compatriot, my fellow citizen Cameroonian, brothers and sisters in the diaspora, today a dark chapter in our country's history has come to an end. The Constitutional Council has just announced truncated result awarding a fictitious victory to the outgoing president, Paul Biya. In so doing, this institution has turned away from its mission as a guardian of truth and democracy to become a partisan body and enemy of the sovereignty of the people. Yet, the truth of the ballot is clear. The official report from our polling station compiled and secured
And it seems we are having a problem with that video. Anyway, we had the essential. You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. My name is Divine Chamukong. We will be having the following panelists: Dr. Ben Bongang. We will have Dr. Aki. We will have other members of the panel. We promise you a very, very, very powerful broadcast on the show today. We will also be opening our phone lines for people to connect. Whoever wants to take part on the broadcast, our phone lines will be open. As soon as our panelists join us, we will be talking to them. We will be asking some really, really tough questions on the broadcast today. And please pick up your phones, get ready to dial 240 603 7367. Before we get the first member of the panel on the platform, let's have this interlude of music. I'll be right back.
Lord Andy of Africa.
That is Lord Ande of Africa. He teaches sociology in Nigeria. You're watching Voices of Africa. This is going to be a combustible broadcast. If you're watching on Facebook, switch over to YouTube. That way, you can watch it in high definition, and the video will be on YouTube forever. You can also watch on www.chatnightafrica.net in high definition. You know, as I do know, that Facebook deletes all live videos after 30 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for making the decision to watch this flammable broadcast. Here is my first guest, Dr. Aki, Ben Aki. He is here in the United States. Dr. Ben Aki, thank you for making the decision of accepting to come on the platform once more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chamukong, for the invitation and for taking up this topic, which is very important today in Cameroon.
My first question to you, Dr. Aki, was Paul Biya's victory a foregone conclusion? Would you say that?
Well, most people would like us to believe that it was a foregone conclusion, but the people of Cameroon are fighters, and we have figured out that there are ways for us to fight, and we believe that by winning in a landslide like Mr. Issa Chiroma won, it would be very, very clear that the winner is not Mr. Paul Biya. At least that part of it is very clear today, that people who don't even support Mr. Issa Chiroma believe that he was the winner. So that phase is already an achievement for those who seek change.
Mr. Chiruma went in for the election knowing what the rules were, knowing that there was going to be, if there were disputes, the Constitutional Council would have to adjudicate. Why is he now rejecting the decision of the Constitutional Council?
Now, let us look at it this way. The Constitution of Cameroon says the president is elected by universal suffrage. It says also that sovereignty belongs to the people of Cameroon. It says that the Cameroon seeks to be a democratic state. It seeks justice. So we have to judge the electoral process based on that. And you agree with me that there are elements of what is going on today that is worse than the electoral process even before Elecam was founded. So, yes, he went in, he knew the rules, and that's why he has collected the evidence to show to the people of Cameroon that the law allows the Constitutional Council to announce the result as long as they reflect the will of the people. The Constitutional Council has not announced results that reflect the will of the people. Any law, any principle that is laid down to be in agreement with the Constitution. If we can say that the Constitutional Council conspired with the president of the country, the incumbent president, Elekam conspired with the incumbent president to subvert the Constitution of Cameroon. But at all times, the power belongs to the people. The people are the sovereign, and they can always use such means as protest to express their opinion that we know, everybody knows, everybody who is objective knows that Mr. Issa Chiroma is the winner. And everybody knows that the president announced by the Constitutional Council is the wrong president. And therefore, that attempt to usurp the sovereignty of Cameroon must be forcefully rejected and pushed back by all citizens of Cameroon, knowing that they are at all times the sovereign of the nation. They remain the sovereign, even if they have elected a president whom they give the power to do certain things, and to parliament they give the power to do other things, to the courts they give different powers. So the power remains with the people, and they are now expressing that power to show that they are not satisfied with the hostage taking of institutions.
If Mr. Chiruma goes to Etudi as the president of the republic, he will have to accept the Constitutional Council. In other words, if he organized an election and somebody challenged it, he will be reminding the person, this is the court of the land, this is the law of the land, this is an institution that you recognize. So the question becomes, Dr. Aki, when you go before a judge, do you only accept the results when it's in your favor? It could
No,
be
no,
also.
this is not the question. This is not the question. Actually, the Constitutional Council is set up as a court. It's part of the judiciary. That's the way we should interpret it. But so far, it has refused ever to rule on cases, especially when they concern the presidential election. Occasionally, you have had cases where municipal council election, parliamentary election, they have been disputed. Some of them have been ruled in favor of those who bring the complaint, but not when it concerns the presidency. If the people of Cameroon take into account the fact that the president of the Constitutional Council was at an event whose agenda included the endorsement of Mr. Biya for re-election, he is already biased, and there is a case that is already in the courts asking him to recuse himself from any case that is related to the election because he is already partisan. And videos have recently surfaced showing him celebrating the victory of Mr. Biya. So we are dealing with a case where at all time, if the people are sovereign, I will give you the example. I'll give you the example of the Constitution of Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany, in around the 1960s. There is an article, I think it's Article 20, Paragraph 4. It gives the right to a German citizen to resist if someone tries to subvert the constitutional order. We're dealing with people who are trying to subvert the Constitution of Cameroon, And therefore, all measures have to be taken. And right now, we're taking the peaceful method of going out and protesting and asking Mr. Biya to go. And let us not forget that at all times, the citizens of Cameroon have the right to go to the street and say, "We ask you, Mr. Biya, to resign as president." There is, first of all, that line which is there. At all times, they can do that. So either you follow the path that you say, okay, let us even assume that this result that has been put forward is true. You can still go out and protest and ask Mr. Biya to resign for extreme delegation of powers, for many, many, many other things that are going wrong in the country, and he is not capable. And there is even a clause that says if the president is incapable of exercising the power, he should resign. He should step down.
You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa, and this is a very special edition of the broadcast. And the title is Paul Biya declared winner, Cameroon burns. In a moment, we will bring up a reaction when the votes were counted in London, in the UK. We will bring up the CPDM subsection president of Northeast London, the CPDM candidate representative for the UK and Northern Ireland. That is Dr. Elvis Mboge. Here is what he said after the counting was over in the UK.
President Paul Biya is the father of Cameroon. And we Cameroonians in the UK have told the world and have told Cameroon itself that he is our head of state. And we believe that him coming first is just a symbol that will reflect the whole nation by tomorrow. We are so happy for him, and I'm personally congratulating President Paul Biya as his representative. I'm congratulating him for an election well done. He once again has shown the world that he is a leader in his people's heart. And it is not by, you can see what democracy says, transparency and openness. Every vote was counted, and Biya came first. We are over the moon. We are proud of our president. We are proud of our head of state. He will keep taking the country to its prosperity. Hoye CPDM, hoye President Paul Biya, long live President Paul Biya, long live Cameroon.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that there'll be a balance on this show. We are not taking any sides, but our guests, our panelists, have the complete freedom to respond to my questions however they feel. At this point, I am going to bring up Professor Ben Bongang. He is a journalism professor and also a professor of political science here in the United States, precisely at Savannah State University. Prof, thank you so much for once again accepting my invitation on Chat Night Africa.
Yes, it's great to be back after we talked about these issues prior to the elections. It's really good to be able to look back and see what we were saying then and compare with what has happened. So it's a pleasure to be back here and to meet Dr. Aki on the other side of the panel. Yeah.
The results were proclaimed. That's not news. Biya is the winner. Unless something miraculously happens, he'll be sworn in for another 7-year term. The question becomes, were the results or was the outcome of the election predictable, Dr. Bonga?
As I said during the first discussion on the show, that was before the elections, I would have been very surprised if the outcome was different. And the reason is that when you look at the exit polls or the results that Chiroma presented, it's obvious if those results he presented were accurate, then he is the winner. But that's besides the point. I had said during that show that we are dealing with a state that is controlling all the levels of power. Dr. Aki did explain very well what's going on. And how I could summarize this is that we have, on the one hand, legality and legitimacy. We have a government that uh, appoints the Constitutional Council, the government that appoints the election board, which I understand is called ELECAM, and all the decision is like having a football match. And I think the Minister of Interior, talked about, gave the analogy of Cotton Sport, I think is a local team playing Real Madrid. It's not a balanced game. Real Madrid comes, in this case, I would say the Real Madrid came with its team, but the referee was playing for Real Madrid as well. So Cotton Sport had no chance at all. So you have, on the one hand, the legal framework which favors the incumbent, and the will of the people, the legitimacy of the elections favored the opposition party. But that's not how the elections have been decided the last 8 times in Cameroon. They've been decided with the current president, the incumbent, winning all the time, because obviously they control the decision making process. They control how these elections are organized and how the counting of the ballots, the most crucial point, how the counting of the ballot is conducted. So,
Dr. Ben
as I
Bongang,
predicted, nothing was expected as far as I'm concerned.
Professor Ben Bongang, there are also people who genuinely voted for Biya. What would you say drives such votes? These people, a lot of them leave villages, cross rivers without bridges, go and vote for Mr. Biya, return to their villages without electricity and potable water. You begin to ask the question, what is it that drove their vote? In political science theory, how would you respond to that?
Exactly. That's right up my alley, because my colleague and I, Dr. Ratsimba Harrison from Madagascar, but who teaches here in the United States, we co-authored an article about 5 years ago, which is published, called "The Durability of the Biya Regime in Cameroon." And what we were looking at, we got data from Afrobarometer, which is a think tank based in London that collects opinion polling in African countries. We extracted from that database responses from Cameroonians, which we analyzed to understand how is it even possible that somebody would be in power for almost half a century. And what we saw was that the respondents did acknowledge that there was very little development to show for the regime in power. Yet, they said they liked the person. They liked Mr. Biya. It is, of course, when you look inside that data, you will see that the favorable responses came from the predictable regions you can imagine: the south, the center, to some extent, parts of far north, which was surprising to us. But that is a partial explanation. We took that tiny slice of data to show, in a way, that that is how you can explain the durability of the Biya regime in Cameroon.
You are watching Voices of Africa and this special broadcast titled Biya Wins, Cameroon Burns. My name is Divine Chambokong, and I'm in Washington, D.C., anchoring this broadcast. At this point, we are going to bring up Dr. Ben Aki to take some questions. Dr. Ben Aki. Dr. Aki, before the elections, before even the campaigns, we saw the Prime Minister of Cameroon, John Gute, laying so many foundation stones for projects across the country. Why don't you think that perhaps people voted for Biya because they saw those projects and saw their economic future in the hands of Biya more than in Chiruma's hands?
Well, it is very unlikely that that is what happened. The people did not vote for Mr. Biya as they explained to us. Let us take, for example, the Northwest. which is supposed to have voted for Mr. Biya 86%. That is not possible given the crisis that is going on in this area. It is not a development. Of course, we know that whenever there is an election, Mr. Biya is going to pretend to be giving some development projects here and there, which stop immediately after the election results have been declared. What happened here was, if you analyze the results, you look at regions, you look at divisions, administrative divisions. When you see the turnout higher than 50%, which is the average. The average has been around 40 to 50% in this election. But when you see turnout which is higher than 50%, probably in the 70, in the 90, this is manufactured result by the government. Because what happened here is that the elecam, that is supposed to be the referee, as Dr. Bongam was saying, turns out to be playing for Real Madrid. But at this location, when they even see that there is a possibility that they can buy the representative of the opposition, or the representative of the opposition comes even 1 minute late, they say, no, you're no longer going to be part of this scrutiny. So they decide to inflate the results. So the victory of Mr. Biya, whatever he calls the victory, which is impossible to think of, is all inflated results. If you take, for example, the center division, the center region, you see the turnout in Fundi, which was close to about 50%. There, it is clear that Mr. Chiroma won, but they flipped the result to show a slight victory for Biya. Elsewhere, they have inflated the turnout to be about 80, 90%, and all of these votes are given to Mr. Biya. This is not an election. This is a travesty of what democracy should be about. And it is possible for us to identify exactly those places where people were actually paid, and people have confessed that we were given money to produce reports of the election. So we make up numbers and we make Bia look well in this report. And normally, because these reports are not emanating from the polling station at 6 p.m. during the election, during the day of the election, they ought not to be considered as part of the election report in any way.
Anyone can dial the phone number 240-603-7367. 240-603-7367. I have the first caller on the line. That is Dr. Elvis Mboge in London. The question I'm going to ask you, Dr. Mboge, is the election has come and gone. President Biya was declared the winner, yet the streets are burning. That is an indication that there are people who believe that the results were rigged. There are people who believe that Biya did not win fairly. Dr. Mboge, how do you respond to this? Hello, Dr. Mboge? Hello, Dr. Mboge? Okay, Dr. Mboge is not coming through. I'm not sure why. Hello, Dr. Mboge? Not coming through. We'll see. We'll make some adjustments here and see if we can get him. Let me see. Hello, Dr. Mboge. How do you respond to this allegation?
Good evening, Divine. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my opinion and for the question that you have asked with regards to the presidential election winner declaration earlier today by the Constitutional Council. I wish to use this opportunity to actually congratulate President Paul Biya and the CPDM party for this remarkable achievement. Is historic, and it is a wonderful achievement, and it showcases that the Cameroonian people are rightly and solidly behind them to be able to take the country to the next level. Yes, when you say some people went to the streets and they seem to say that the election was not won fairly, for me, I see this like a normal post-electoral complaint for those who have lost. You know, like any election, you will find people always coming up with one or two issues that they raise that caused them to lose the election. And it is not strange for a losing party to accuse the winning party that certain things were not done rightly. As a matter of fact, ELECAM, the institution, the commission that is ensuring that we have this free and fair election, ensure that every party and every stakeholder is well represented in this body that is ensuring that we have this free and fair election. So I don't see why we will ever come to the point where they say the elections were not free and fair, especially when everybody, every stakeholder is partaking. You can bear with me, even in the United States of America, people who have practiced democracy for hundreds of years, you can tell that they are facing significant challenges, even during their presidential elections, where parties accuse one another for issues that are violating the electoral process. The case of Cameroon is not very different. And a significant amount of the opposition in our case in Cameroon made mistakes, violated the electoral code, where they told their supporters that they have won even before votes were counted. Can you imagine? So things like this bring up emotions. And when results are finally declared by the rightful institution, which in our case is the Constitutional Council, people who have lost will have a lot of emotions displayed. And that's what you see today in Cameroon. But I'm very proud that our democracy is getting better, it's learning, it's growing, and it has successfully, again, achieved another land mark. And we have now got a president, and President Paul Biya, I can assure you, is a president for all Cameroon. It's not just the president for CPDM or for a particular group of people. President for everybody, for every citizen, for every person with a different ideology, different party, different religion, different origin, and everything, is the head of state for Cameroonian people. And it is time we all grow, come together, unite, work together with him to build Cameroon under the vision that we Cameroonians have adopted, the 2035 vision.
All right, that's Dr. Elvis Mboge. Predictably, he has to say what he's saying is the CPDM subsection president for Northeast London. And but he raises certain questions there. Across the world, when somebody loses an election, they cry foul. How do you react to that, Dr. Aki?
Well, I want to first of all caution my brother who has just spoken there from London, is that the Cameroon people are deeply, deeply hurt by what is going on in the country. This is very provocative language. If he were in Cameroon, he would probably try not to say that kind of material in the public, because the people, the CPDM people, they know that they did not win this election. This is clear. What we are trying to do here is to tell the people of Cameroon, Mr. Tamago, for about 8 years, I have been fighting. I've been telling the people of former Southern Cameroon, I say, look, we can fix this country as a federal system. And we can fix this country by making sure that we force politicians to adopt federalism and then to bring federalist reform. That has worked. Almost all the opposition politicians now adopt a federal system. They are promoting this federal system. Then now you say, okay, let's go to the election. Please come out and vote. If you vote and you choose your president, we will see things improving. We are showing you that there are very, very, very complex problems that can be solved politically. And these are solved politically when politicians know that votes will be counted and I will be judged by how many votes I get for my own program that I have. This is what we're trying. We're trying to do the responsible thing to tell citizens that we can solve our complex problems using political methods. But what these thieves, that's what we call them, election thieves. Mr. Biya is a fraud, and he has been a fraud for most of the time. Now, of course, the official documents will show something different, We know, the American embassy know, the French, they know that in 1992, Mr. John Frundi was the winner of the election. He won right in the center province in those days. And today in the center region, we believe that Mr. Chiroba has also won, but his score has been reduced there. So we're saying that what he is raising here as point in many countries, yes, when somebody loses an election, they complain. I would have expected the CPDM to be complaining after they are declared the losers in this election. But in this particular case, the people resounding in a resounding manner elected for somebody for change. The country is crying out for change. If you find a country after 40 years is worse than it was in those days, the people, if they are reasonable and free, they will obviously want change. And nobody will want change by voting Mr. Biya, who, by the way, refuses even to practice democracy in his own party.
All right.
If he
Thank you
had
so
gone,
much.
if he had gone for a convention, he had gone to a congress and openly contested within his party, he would never have been elected the candidate of the CPDM. So
Thank you so
everything is
much.
by capture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ben Aki. At this point, we will bring up Professor Ben Bongang, Professor of Journalism and Political Science. Dr. Ben Bongang wants more on the platform to take my questions. Dr. Ben Bongang, this is what somebody wrote online. The title is Why Paul Biya, legally on quotes, wins elections despite social media hype. Here's what the political commentator said. The urban noise creates the illusion of change, while the rural silence determines the outcome. Point number two, the battle is in the hinterlands, far from social media hype. You are not only a professor of journalism, you are also a professor of political science. Does that factor into what came into or what we're seeing? Because Bia's government ministers are saying that where we may see the crowds in the urban areas, but where votes are harvested are in the rural areas. Is there any truth in that?
I think he's making an important point, which will lead us to talk about the role of the media. What I've observed in these elections, and of course observing from way away from home, from Cameroon, is that the media has played a very, very important role in the elections in Cameroon. Now, but here's the problem with the media. You have the social media that has inundated the space, and you have the traditional media, that is the newspapers and others, that are struggling to be heard. But let's begin with the traditional media. Uh, Sometimes I'm surprised that is from Jeune Afrique, which covers Cameroon and other African countries, that you will glean the kinds of information that are insider information about the powerful in Cameroon. For instance, Jeune Afrique reported details. It was the first newspaper to report details about potential negotiations between the Biya regime and Chiroma, offering the position of prime minister. I wasn't surprised, because the way information works in Cameroon is that insiders like that would anonymously talk to foreign media sources, but not to national media sources, which of course is understandable. Now, when it comes to social media, that's where we have both a great opportunity, but also great dangers, because everybody can broadcast now from home. Thanks to the technology, we are having this broadcast, others are having broadcasts, and all of us are fighting for space on Facebook, on YouTube, and all the other platforms. So, whoever packages their message very well and enticing enough is the one that is heard. But does that make that news objective? Does that make it true? I've read on social media incredible stories that, of course, could not be true. But some of those stories are accepted as the gospel truth, depending on whose side it tends to support. So I would say the media has played a very important role, and especially exposing some of the things that during my time as a journalist in Cameroon would never have seen the light of day. So it's, as you would call it, a double-edged sword. The media is playing a double-edged sword, but a necessary double-edged sword. We would never have known that uh, results could be counted the night of the elections, but they were not only counted, but we could see pictures of from the polling stations, which were apparently authentic. So that was a great momentum in pushing for the opposition to claim victory. In that
But
sense, the media played a
but
very important role.
but the question, I'm assuming that's what is commonly referred to as citizen journalism. Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So, is citizen journalism inflaming the situation or informing the public? Is there a line between the two?
Yeah. Oh, very, very great. Now, citizen journalism, you know, yeah, as a journalist, we had to go to school to learn the trade. So citizens are using technology to communicate. They are communicating, but they are not journalists. There's a way to report a story. There's a way to authenticate a story. That means we report stories, we interview sources, we quote them, we verify, editors check what we've reported before this is broadcast. That's not what's happening with citizen journalism. And I hate to call it journalism because it is citizens using modern technological platforms to transmit information. So that's not journalism. There are journalistic sources that are also using these platforms. The problem, therefore, for the ordinary consumer of these contents is to identify which are the sources that are most credible.
But
I was coming from a class this afternoon, and that was the challenge I was having with my students. And the reason I asked them, what are they reading? They say, well, they got the news from TikTok. And I was, you know, I said, this is unbelievable. So I have to pull the New York Times, I have to pull the Economist, I have to pull Washington Post, and these legacy and traditional news sources to tell them the reason why these are the authoritative news sources to look at. We don't have that. Yeah.
Ben Bongang, you're talking about authoritative sources. One would think that CLTV is. You work there, I work there.
Yes.
Why are people unlikely to believe what is in traditional media, in this case CLTV? They're going to TikTok to get the information there. What's
Excellent.
happening?
Excellent. You bring our old house CRTV because uh, you recall that the tension between the government and journalists like us who were trained to report stories was that most governments see journalists who work for CRTV or other government organs as civil servants. They are civil servants, but not civil servants to serve the country, but civil servants to serve a government. And the problem with Cameroon comes because you've not had in the history of the country another government rule. So there has not been a tradition of say an opposition party taking over and still using the same journalists or the same media outlet. There is a difference between a government outlet and a state outlet. Because a state outlet would mean what? If the opposition took over today, they would use the state media organization, and the next government would still use it. And the government that is exiting can have its own media arm that they go along with. and that is a confusion when it comes to media in Cameroon, places like Sopecam or CRTV. There's a confusion between, is it the government or the party that runs it?
Dr. Ben Bongan, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. At this point, I am going to bring on the platform Dr. Ben Aki. He is a very vocal activist, political activist, in addition to being aerospace engineer and mechanical engineer as well here in the United States. But before that's done, soon after the results were proclaimed, scenes like this replicated throughout the national territory of Cameroon. Watch this.
Bubble!
You are watching Voices of Africa, and I have to say, scenes like this were all over the country. There are reports of fatalities. I even saw some videos which showed women mourning in the streets as if somebody died. It's pathetic. I couldn't hold back tears myself. It's so I'm going to bring up Dr. Ben Aki at this point to raise some questions about national peace and victory. Dr. Ben Aki, in times like this, when Cameroon could very easily descend into a war, should both parties prioritize? Hear me again. Should both parties prioritize peace over victory, election victory? If yes, how should they go about it?
I think the question is not contrasting peace with victory. It's contrasting peace with justice and showing that one is more fundamental. And what is fundamental here is justice. I think most people have not understood why Mr. Chiroma has even won. That's why the government was not prepared for it. The government thought that somebody who resigned from the government just a couple of months ago can never mount a campaign and win. But yet, the people are fully behind that candidate. This is because this is the determination of the people. The people have made up their mind that they are fed up with Mr. Biya and they're going to take their chance. The candidate who was channeling their hope was Mr. Kamto. And because of that, because of opinion polls which we conducted and we showed how dominant he was in the polls, the government was so afraid of him and decided to sideline his candidacy by falsifying public records. Mr. Atanganchi's ministry falsified records because of that. And just after that, the people looked at all the other candidates who were left and found that Mr. Issa Chiroma was a more sincere breakaway from the government, and he was trying to redeem himself, so in the language of some people. And that's how they channel their hope. So the reaction you see on the street, these are the reactions of the people. They have made up their mind, and it would be very wrong for the CPDM to underestimate these people. They are determined. And what I think Mr. Chiroma is doing, and what political activists like us are doing, is trying to channel the anger, the pent up anger in these people, the frustration. We're trying to channel this into something more hopeful and more peaceful and more structured because we believe that change should come from law to law. But what the government is doing is trying to deny us that possibility of channeling the frustration of Cameroonians through a more peaceful and just means to a resolution. So, what is happening now on the street is I believe that when justice is completely absent, peace is not possible. And for you to get to peace, you have to resolve these issues that are there. For example, I think what is happening, the government is using this as a strategy. It's an age-old strategy. I have explained this in some of my books, the ideological source of some of these differences, to talk about peace and unity when you are trampling on justice. This is not possible, but that is the playbook of the government. But right now, the people want justice. And it is in the context of justice that you see counting votes properly, reporting the right turnout at a particular location is very important. And the people are in a position where they can express themselves and bring pressure on the lenders, those who lend money to Cameroon, the foreign governments, the international community, and bring such pressure that will be clear that this man cannot govern. I have explained in other contexts that the police, the military, the gendarmerie, they only make up in most countries about 0.1 to 0.5%. In Cameroon, it's 0.2%. So a country is not held together by police or military and all of that. It's held together by justice, a culture of justice, a culture of fairness, and something very blatantly wrong has been orchestrated in Cameroon, and the people have had enough of it. What we are trying to do is to tell them you can still be peaceful and seek that resolution.
You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. My name is Divine Nchamukong. Quite true, it was evident Mr. Chiruma quickly became the front runner in the elections compared to the other candidates. Dr. Ben Aki, what's your reaction to those who think that a unified front against Mr. Biya would have by now sent Biya packing out of Italy and going to Mvomeka?
Well, I think that is impossible, and that's why I've never really put a lot of investment in that because that formula gives victory to Mr. Bia immediately. There is
How so?
always, wherever there is multiplicity, Cameroon has been so morally destroyed that many people, even this analysis that Professor Bonga was explaining, that people in the rural area, they will tell you, oh, we like this person, even though their lives are miserable. What happens is that Mr. Bia has given them the impression that you can never change the country by elections. You either be with me or you'll be out protesting, but nothing is going to happen. So what he has succeeded to do is to give people the impression that you can never win. That is what explains the behavior of people like Mr. Bello Buba, Mr. Joshua Osi, Mr. Cabral Libi. So they knew coming into the election that no matter who wins the election in real terms, the result of the election will be such that the incumbent will win. And therefore, I have to
Dr.
be on.
Aki,
Yes.
Dr. Aki, remember the first question I asked you was whether Mr. Chiruma's quote loss or Mr. Bia's quote win was predictable. And here's why I ask you the question. Mr. Chiruma was in government when Professor Kamto lost in 2018. Well, some people say he won. So you begin to ask yourself, he was member of government. What did he learn? Did he learn anything going into this election, given the fact that he was member of government when Mr. Chirum, when Kamto ran?
Well, yes, I think we have a track record of that. Even in 2004, when Frundi contested with Bia, Mr. Kamto was out there praising the institutions, and praising the finality of the judgment of this. And then in 2018, he was a victim. And Mr. Chiroma was also there saying that, well, you cannot really win without the North. And today he's a victim. But what we ought to do as Cameroonians is always to stick with what is just and what is the right thing to do. And that is what, even if people told us, if the majority told us that you go into this election, the results are already baked. This is what we have succeeded to do. By creatively using things like opinion polls, we made it very clear that before you go into the election, this is how people stand. Mr. Chiroma is about 60%. Mr. Cabral Libby is about 15%, Biya is about 15%, but the supporters of Mr. Libby are mostly supporters of Biya, and some of them are opposition. In the last hours, they may fall one way or the other. And so that is the framework that the people now have to see the results, and these have revealed themselves to be very accurate. If you see the results in Littoral, in West region, the engagement of the people in the northern region, the engagement of the people have led to the results coming out to be something significant. It had to take the northwest and the southwest region for the CPDM to come out with something in the form of victory. So
I'm going to ask you
yes.
one last question, and then bring up Dr. Ben Bongang. Before I do, if you're watching this broadcast on Facebook, switch over to YouTube, search Chat Night Africa, because after 30 days, Facebook deletes all live broadcasts, all videos, and so on. So, whereas this is going to be on YouTube, please, if you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. We have lined up powerful contents for you. I said from the start that this platform, Chat Night Africa, does not endorse any candidate. We're asking strong questions to our guests, and our guests have the liberty, the complete freedom to answer as they see fit. Forgive me, ask you this question. During this, in the run-up to the elections, Ambazonia leaders called for lockdowns and boycotts. Do you think if people had massively participated in the Southwest and in the Northwest regions, it would have made a difference? It seems to me it would have, because in 1997, during the parliamentary elections, you see what happened. I was in Bamenda. People, the election, the turnout was incredibly overwhelming. And those we call fraudsters, they were not dead, they were alive at that time. But still, John Fundi swept all the seats. So the question becomes, had this call for lockdowns and boycotts not been made, would people have showed up? Would Paul Biya have lost the elections in the Northwest and Southwest regions?
Absolutely, absolutely. He would have lost by a very big margin, and the results would have been closer to what we found in our opinion poll, showing that Mr. Chiruba was going to win in both regions, well over 50%. So this is something that it's unfortunate that our brothers and sisters who are fighting for the independence of former Southern Cameroon end up actually fighting for Mr. Biya. They are very much promoting his agenda. So I will give you the example of Menchum, where I come from. So we had a history of working with members of the CRM party in Menchum. We helped them with voter registration, so we were in close collaboration. And I talked to people in my own area. So while Mr. Chiroma did not win in Menchum, what we succeeded to do was to hold the voter turnout to 19.6%. So it was 19.6%. Elsewhere, you would go to Ndu, they inflated to about 100% because there was no opposition there. We had very active CRM members who decided to volunteer for Mr. Kamto's campaign. Now, imagine if the lockdown was not there. And what he told us in mention was that yes, we were there. We made sure that we count every vote. We did not allow any rigging to take place. But the only motivated people who came out to vote were the CPDM militants, because the opposition, they were afraid of the lockdown, and the CPDM, they had more security. So yes, the answer to your question is absolutely. It would have made a huge difference if there were no lockdown, and they could not guarantee that the CPDM will not do what they have done. And so by doing that, on the one hand, we have lost the opportunity to really, really reinforce the victory of Mr. Chiroma, which was such that Mr. Biya only had about 2 regions or 3 regions where he could win. There was no way that he could find victory. But on the other hand, there is a silver lining from this mistake. The silver lining is this: everybody knows that the results from Northwest and Southwest are fraudulent, because they don't believe that 2 regions that are fighting to break away from the country, where we believe that the minimum satisfaction of their demands is a federal system, can decide to go towards the fanatic of a unitary state like Mr. Paul Biya. It is not. It is not an election. And we found even in Fako, where people actually voted and there was opposition, that's where Mr. Chiroma won. Even though later on they tried to change the result, the people were very engaged. And you're right, if you go back to the history of the Northwest, when the SDF stood up, when they were there actively fighting, when they said count every vote, the Northwest and Littoral, and to some degree West, these are the 3 regions where
But
elections have always been transparent,
when you say
more
this,
transparent.
Dr. Benaki, when you say that, had people showed up massively, it would have made rigging by CPD and bigwigs impossible in the Northwest. Well, some people will say, but what happened in other regions where there was no lockdown? What's your response then?
Well, the only region that has suffered, there are 2 regions that have suffered where the polls already showed that Bia was going to win, in the South region and in the East region. The question was, if you had your opposition there, they at least would keep the voter turnout to be realistic and realistically close to 50%, which is what was nationwide. That was the only thing that they needed to do there. But if you look at Littoral, the results are close to what the people actually wanted. So resounding victory for Mr. Chiroma. And then in the north and in the Adamawa, he has victory, but it's not as strong as it's supposed to be, because there the CPDM and the Lamibe and the Imams, they have a certain alliance which is continuing to be used to rig elections in their favor. For example, if you take the Lamido of Ray Buba, there the people are not even allowed to vote for the opposition, because the Lamido is a spiritual leader, it's a political leader, it's everything to the people. So there are some of these pockets where you could have expected that kind of behavior. But the problem in the Northwest, technically, the problem in the Northwest is that the lockdown was very, very, very detrimental. It gave an opening. I'm not saying that if we had voted massively in Northwest and Southwest, this very, very dangerous regime of Mr. Biya would not have invented something new, right? So Mr. Kanto was disqualified because they feared he will have a massive victory. But when Chiroma came around with that victory, they said, "Oh, we have a new idea, and that idea is let us make Northwest and Southwest be so pro Biya that nobody would be able to beat us there."
You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa, and this is a special political broadcast. And the title is Biya Wins, Cameroon Burns. You have just been listening to Dr. Ben Aki. At this point, we bring up Dr. Ben Bongang to take some questions as well before Ben Aki. We have 2 Bens here before Ben Aki comes back. Dr. Ben Bongang, you teach political science, you're a professor in political science and journalism, and we all agree, like it or not, in every country, the incumbent, there's what they call the advantages of incumbency. That's indisputable. The advantage could also include fraudulent advantages and all those things. So again, I want to make this clear. You must have, if you watch this broadcast from the start, Chat Night Africa is not saying Biya won or Chiruma's victory was stolen. We are neutral in this. We do journalism as you teach in your university. We don't come here to take sides. We just ask you questions, but you, our guest, can answer in any way you see fit. We do not stop you in that. And then the phone line, 240-603-8730. 7367. 240 603 7367. I can understand, Dr. Ben Bongang. The result has just been proclaimed and Biya the winner. Some people are jubilating, some people are crying foul. But the question becomes, and before the question, I'm going to ask you, after this election, will be many more elections to come. Before you know it, it'll be 7 years. I can't believe we moved from 2018 and this is 2025, because the life of a nation is, what do I say, endless. It's not like your life and my life. After some time, we're going to die, but the country is going to continue. The question, Dr. Ben Bongang, I'm going to ask you now is, if you were to do or suggest to the opposition, to all the political parties to do what you called a SWOT analysis, what should they be thinking about? This is why this question is relevant. 1992 came and passed. It went the way it went. Fundi was believed to be the winner, and Paul Biya believed to have stolen the election results from Fundi. Kamto came, 2018. We leave the same scenario. Kamto, there are people who believe that Kamto won, and Biya didn't, but Biya is in the presidency today. So the question becomes, if you were to advise on SWOT analysis, what would you be telling political parties to do against next elections? Because there will be next elections.
Yes, I think it's good you mentioned 1992. And in talking about the present, sometimes we lose sight of the important lessons to draw from history. John Frundi made a remarkable feat when he ran for elections for president in 1992. He created a belief in Cameroonians that people power, that the people can challenge even a very strong state government. And he established that. So the successive elections, therefore, forced the government to sit up and take the opposition seriously and make sure they thwarted the opposition the best ways possible, co-opting some and making sure that the others were either eliminated from participating as recently as with the Campto story. So, what should the opposition be doing? The opposition, from what has just happened, should be very confident that if you are able to mobilize your people and push your agenda, look at what Chiroma and his team did in a few months. They were able to sell their program. They were able to go to the places. I saw a video of Chiroma in Bamenda with a Bamenda hat apologizing to people. That kind of connection with the people is what is important. Now, but does that mean that any opposition that does that now in Cameroon will win in the next elections? We have to take into account in analyzing elections in Cameroon, and I would say in a lot of francophone countries, the role of external factors, external forces. France is still a very important key player in some of its former colonies. And by that, I mean that their interests in some of these countries are so important that they would do anything to support the incumbent so long as that incumbent guarantees their interests. And it's not only France, it also other countries that have interests in Cameroon. When you look at Cameroon, the strategic importance of Cameroon going beyond the Cameroonians themselves. Cameroon is strategically located. The Chad pipeline crosses Cameroon. It is an important investment. Boko Haram is threatening from Nigeria, and all the external actors who play in Cameroon want to see a stable Cameroon, because if Cameroon completely descends into chaos and fighting across, it will be impossible to guarantee the survival of these key structures that are of interest to external actors. The United States is interested in peace in this region. And if Boko Haram were to spread into Cameroon, it is impossible to predict the chaos that will be in the sub-region. So it is not only about Cameroon, it is about the strategic location of the country.
Dr. Ben Bongang, somebody is on the line. Apparently, it is a CPDM supporter, Dr. Elvis Mboge, again calling from London. I told you we'll do a balanced program, balanced and fair. We'll be asking strong questions as we're doing, but we'll make sure that we are fair to all the people, because I do understand there are Kamto supporters, there are Chiruma supporters, there are OC supporters, there are CPD and Biya supporters watching this show. So we're doing this show for everybody. That's why we don't take sides on Chat Night Africa.
Yeah.
That's compliant with our editorial policy here on the platform. Hello, Dr. Mboge. The question I'm going to ask you is, there are people like you who continue to vote for Biya. Some live in villages without electricity or potable water. Some cross rivers without bridges. What, in your view, still makes them think Biya, at 92 years, having governed for 42 years, should be re-elected? Here, Dr. Mboge, you have the line. Please, go on. Hello, Dr. Mboge.
85, so that Cameroon.
Hello, Dr. Mboge.
Hello, good evening, Divine. Thank you for your question and for seeking my opinion with regards to why some of us have continually supported and voted for President Paul Biya. As a matter of fact, we have continually supported and voted for him simply because we trust him more. We are not saying that there are no other persons, and we are not saying that President Biya is perfect. All we are saying is that Cameroonians trust him more because we believe he has the safest pair of hands to keep the unity of our country together, to keep the peace of our country, to ensure the progress of our country, and the most important part of it, to secure our political independence. Biya has, from the first day he got into office in 1982, he has sacrificed himself to work for Cameroon and for Cameroonians. Yes, many people want to see development with their eyes, and it's true. President Paul Biya has done what he has been doing to develop Cameroon from the day he entered office. I can testify that there are more roads in Cameroon that Biya has built. There are more hospitals that he has built. There are more schools that he has built. There are more dams that he has built. He has electrified Cameroon than he did. He's expanded electrification. There's just a lot that in the agricultural sector, there's just a lot that Biya has achieved. But development is a slow and steady progress. You cannot develop and achieve development at once. The spectrum of development is much. It's so much that you can't even start counting the different spectrums of development for a state. And what Biya has developed so much and has achieved so much is to build the statehood of Cameroon, to give us a better foundation as a nation and a state. That's what people don't see. We have one of the most structured democracies in the world, not just in Africa, as a state of Cameroon. Our institutions are well developed. Our diplomacy and our politics is well recognized as a state. This is development as well, political development. And development is not just the development we see as in terms of infrastructural development. But if we even go to that, Cameroon today is a building site where you see a lot of big projects going on. What Mr. Biya has done is he has asked Cameroonians, trust me again. And Cameroonians have trusted him. We have trusted him because we have seen the foundation he has laid. Today, among the French former colonies, we are one of the most independent countries with more or less almost all our resources still secured under our sovereign ownership as a state. This is thanks to Mr. Paul Biya. But this is what people don't see. But if I tell you now that Cameroonians are so clever and they have seen this beyond what you can see with the eyes, they have noted this and they have thanked President Paul Biya, and they know he's the safest pair of hands to ensure that Cameroon gets to another level. That is why they have given him this 7-year mandate again to be able to implement his Vision 2035 so that Cameroon will go to the next level. And that is why Cameroonians have voted President Paul Biya. And it is time for all Cameroonians to join him, regardless of our party ideologies, our differences, our different origins. We are all Cameroonians. It is time for us to join our president to build a better Cameroon. Thank you so much.
Wow. I don't know what I was talking about. Another Cameroon that I know.
Well, even
Anyway.
the journalist is able to observe that this is not the reality. Normally,
Anyway, Dr. Mbweg, Elvis Mbwege is CPDM subsection president for Northeast London. Thank you, Dr. Mbwege, for dialing in. Again, if you want to call, the calls are going to be unfiltered. I don't have to agree with what you are saying, but I will defend your right to say it. That's what I understand freedom of speech to mean in journalism. Before I ask you the next question, Dr. Ben Aki, this is what Geraldine Molo says. Let me use my village. Let me bring that on the screen. Let me use my village as an example. According to the results, Biya had 2,500 votes. We do not have 1,500 people in that village as we speak. I believe that's advanced democracy. Now, this is what Mavanga Mandangi says. The numbers of people did not turn out. Let me see here. Hold on. He says the number. I'm going to come back to that. I'm having a lot of. Okay.
Those numbers.
Those numbers of people did not turn out to vote in the Northwest and Southwest, whether for CPDM or anyone. That's where the problem is. Amber lockdown affected voters of all parties, not only those of the opposition. Now, I'm not going to ask you any comment on what Dr. Mboge said. He's CPDM. I expect him to say what he said about their party candidate and leader. But the question I asked Dr. Bonga, and I'm going to ask you the same question. You are a political activist, very vocal. You're a consultant, you're a pollster. You've been doing this for a long time. If you were going to advise people who are going to run in 2032, I do understand the emotions are raw now. Lots of Cameroonians would love to see Mr. Chiruma as president. I'm not going to give you what my opinion is. I hold my opinion. My opinion really doesn't matter on this platform. I'm a journalist. I do what Ben Bongang taught us in class to do. So that's what I'm doing here. But the question is, if you were to advise those coming next, because today, 2025, we're talking about Chiruma. In 2032, we don't know who we will be talking about. The question becomes, if you are advising them, what precautions would you ask them to take? SWOT analysis. That way, people don't do the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
I think when you start blaming somebody for success, that becomes a problem. We have, first of all, to see that the opposition, especially in this particular time, the civil society has supported a candidate who has done a tremendous job to get to this leadership. I want to assure you that with the leadership of Mr. Chiroma at this particular time, Cameroonians are going to assert themselves and Mr. Biya is going to leave office. Whether it is by recounting this particular election or by following the constitution, which requires an election within 120 days if he resigns, Mr. Biya is going to leave office. There's going to be an election before then. There's going to be an election before then. And believe me, if all we are asking for, you don't want me to comment on what my brother from CPDM has just said. We just want the votes to be counted. If the votes were counted normally, such comedic views that they have about their party, we will laugh at them and they will have no effect on the people. That's politics, that's freedom. They are free to imagine themselves living in a very great country. All we want is that the vote should be counted. And the comment that has just shown here, more people voting for Mr. Biya than people who live in that area, that's a travesty. That's something no Cameroonian should stand up for. And we cannot just say, okay, let us sit now and think about the future. We have to stand up, and now is the time to say, not in my name are you going to be president in this country. We are the sovereign. We have the ultimate power to say what the constitution says how to choose a president has not been respected. I am focusing on that. I would ask any opposition candidate who really cares about being a professional politician in Cameroon to stand with the Cameroonian people now who have not turned the page on this election. And you're going to see more and more activities in that direction. The people are fed up, the people are not happy, the people are angry, and we're just helping them to channel that peacefully into asking Mr. Biya to leave. Please leave. We don't want you anymore. The people of Cameroon don't want you. He knows that. He knows that. He knows the numbers. Some reporters have shown that on the very day the election took place, the results were channeled to Mr. Biya, and he convoked, he invited, he requested the presence of the director of Elecam. And the director of Elecam,
I talked to somebody
yes,
who is neither a Biya supporter nor a Chiruma supporter nor a supporter of any of those candidates. And I asked her, why are you not going to vote? This is the answer I got. Divine, I would have loved to vote for Mr. Chiruma for a change, but Mr. Chiruma cannot tell us what he did when he was Minister of Transport, when he was Minister of Employment, when he was board chair at CLTV, when he was Minister of Communication. Does that voter have a point?
well, I think when that question is posed that way, if you ask Mr. Chiruma, he will also have an answer. I tend not to be his advocate on this question. But if you ask him, he will tell you there are many things, even the toll gates, which are raising money to fix road, that was instituted by him. There were many things about international coach. There were many things about train travel that he would sell that as his points. And on communication, you may not agree with the way he did it, but the point is he created at least an opportunity for journalists to ask questions. You don't have many opportunities to ask the government of Cameroon questions. As much as you will see Mr. Tanganji come out there and shout at the journalists, he's not really doing a press conference that allows you even to ask questions that challenges the government and reverses the story that the government is saying.
The other thing,
What I
yeah, go
understand
ahead.
with Mr. Chiroma is that the people have asked him to do one thing, and one thing they ask him first: get rid of Paul Biya. We want Paul Biya to go. Help us to get rid of Paul Biya. That's the first single most important thing that attracted people to Chiroma. And they felt that he will have the nerve, he will have the courage to stand up when his election victory is stolen. And he is demonstrating that he's living up to that. The second thing that the people wanted to see was that after Biya has gone, we need to do reforms. We don't want you to give us the reform ready-made. We want to sit together and talk about what these reforms are. And he's open to that. And I think that's the direction that the people are going to.
Before I bring up Professor Ben Bongang, in all conflicts in the world, to resolve those conflicts, there have to be compromises made. It's done in the United States all the time and elsewhere. Do you think there can be a compromise in this political stalemate between Issa Chiruma and Paul Biya?
I think the only compromise is that Mr. Biya can leave and we not prosecute him and his ministers, and that they can leave. They can take some of the stuff that they have stolen from the people of Cameroon. That is
In
the
the
only that's the only compromise. And honestly, if you ask the people of Cameroon, I don't think that they will say anything different from that. Any compromise you have in Cameroon, short of Mr. Biya leaving the presidency, is not a compromise at all. It's a capitulation, and the people don't want capitulation. And anybody who comes out to say that will find themselves very much on the wrong side of history. We want to fight, and the people are ready to fight to make sure that they have a country. If we do not fight to make sure that Mr. Biya leaves office, we don't have a country. That means you vote, you count, because the narrative I was telling you, the alleged conversation was that Mr. Biya called the director of Elekam, and the director of Elekam said, unfortunately, you have lost. And there are even reports, there are surveys that were carried out by a journalist, uh, somebody in the CPDM, and handed to the prime minister at the end of September, around September 25th. It was clear that that they are not going to win in Northwest and Southwest and in the country in anywhere. It was clear that the candidate was losing. So they know this. If after knowing all of this, we allow the CPDM just to change the vote, we don't have a country. But we
well,
want to have a country.
at this point, I'm going to bring up, and you come back with to answer a closing question, and Dr. Bongam also will be answering a closing question right now. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. This is a special political broadcast, and the title is Biya Wins, Cameroon Burns. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Professor Ben Bongang. But before he comes on, this broadcast will be away from YouTube, deleted by Facebook after 30 days. You are better off going to YouTube and watching it there in high definition, or on our website, www.chatnightafrica.net. My name is Divine Chamakong. Please support us with a subscription, whatever it is. If you're on YouTube, kindly click on the subscribe button and the notification bell. We have lined up powerful broadcast for you. At this point, here is Dr. Ben Bongang, Professor Ben Bongang, to answer the last question. And we will also bring Dr. Aki to take the last question. Dr. Ben Bongang, you teach political science and journalism at Savannah State University here in the United States. You are a well-known professor around the country. When you watch our traditional, famous, reputable journalists in Cameroon, a lot of them injected themselves in the political play. They instead of being journalists, they were sounding more like activists. Question: is there a common space, or can journalism and political activism share a common bedroom?
Well, I don't recall the specific cases, but there is no limitation to what people can do. Journalists all over the world have moved from the practice of the profession. Some have moved into politics. Some have moved, like me, into teaching and other things. So I don't think that is a problem per se. So long as you move from journalism to whatever else you are doing, and then it is clear that you are no longer practicing as a journalist. For instance, if you look in the United States, we have commentators who are either columnists and have espoused a certain ideology. You have former journalists in say Fox News who are espousing a conservative viewpoint, and it is clear that they are no longer reporters, that is objectively writing stories. You have those on the left who are on MSNBC and other pro-left or pro-liberal line. But it is very clear. Once you've made that move and you've clarified your position, you therefore bring whatever wealth of information you've had from your former profession to a new profession.
If you,
Oh, yes.
I take it to mean, I take
Mhm.
it to mean that journalism and political activism, you can't have a mixture of both. It's either one
No.
or the other.
Yes. If you are a
If I
journalist, you are a
understand.
journalist. And
Okay.
just let me just say one thing. You just reminded me of something I wanted to emphasize. I have been, I practice in Cameroon under circumstances that we understand on Radio Cameroon and CRTV. And I came to the United States, returned to Cameroon for the first time almost a quarter century later. And I was amazed at the proliferation of media outlets. But even though we had now so many radio stations, so many television stations, what I observed was that the media landscape was full of commentaries rather than reporting. And that is what I still see today. It is very, very difficult to do objective reporting in not only Cameroon, but in most of the African countries. Why? Because access to information from the leaders is very difficult, if not impossible. So, what journalists, good meaning journalists, try to do is to glean and speculate on what the information is. The result is that they expose themselves to uh, to accusations by the government that they are either biased or they are fabricating stories.
If you were to go home now, home in Cameroon, to organize refresher courses for journalists, what would
Yes,
you tell them?
and I did. I
Journalism
did
in
do.
terms of conflict.
In fact, in 2016, I I went to Cameroon trying to start a workshop in Bamenda. But unfortunately, it was when the problems started in the northwest and southwest. The day we planned to start to launch the workshop, it was the day the prime minister was coming to Bamenda to meet with the teachers and the lawyers. So of course, I could not. My workshop could not happen because the the administrative authorities stopped it. The year following that, I went back and negotiated and talked to people of Cameroon radio and television that I would like to do a workshop for some of their folks. The senior management was receptive, but nothing came from that, even after my follow up emails.
You mean
So
people didn't come for the seminar?
no, they promised to get back
Well,
with me, and it
maybe
has
they
been
thought they knew so much they didn't need to learn
it's,
any more thing. But what would you tell them should be the conduct of a journalist in times of a political stalemate like what we're going through now in
yes.
Cameroon?
No, first it is it would be a dream that they would have be able to practice. There are so many difficulties, and we can. The basic one is if a journalist had to go to Bamenda to anywhere in the country, I just call Bamenda. It it means that journalist has the means to go report the story. I don't know how the private media organizations what they pay their journalists. I don't know if they invest in reporting. So that's a whole other area. So journalism, there's no political system that will succeed without free and fair reporting of political stories. So we can talk all we want about the politics changing. If there is no free press, then the citizens will not be informed about what is happening. What we'll end up having are all these very biased and ideological commentaries that instead fuel animosity and set one group against the other, but hardly any serious reporting. For instance, how many stories have we had that threw light on exactly what is happening in in the northwest and southwest provinces after almost 10 years? Hardly any story that one can really get to the bottom of what's going on. So that's the problem.
Thank you, Dr. Ben Bongang. You are watching this special broadcast, political broadcast titled Biya Wins, Cameroon Burns. Probably I'll bring back Dr. Ben Bongang for a last minute of last word, 1 minute of last word. But before we do that, I have two questions for Dr. Ben Aki before we wrap up the broadcast. Dr. Ben Aki, how much of Ichsia Churuma's growing appeal reflects confidence in his leadership, and how much is driven by voter fatigue or dissatisfaction with 43 years of Biya at the helm?
I would say Mr. Issa Chiruma's politics is like a jazz player. Think of Louis Armstrong or so. Jazz works well when you play with the people. You play, you give it to one player, and then you pass it back to another player. I think there is a conversation that is going on between the people and Chiroma. It seems like he has learned some lessons from John Frundi. He reminds people of that kind of politician who genuinely enjoyed being among people. You don't see that with Mr. Biya. Mr. Biya is a bureaucrat who just happened to have been directed to become president. He would not have even won an election, even in the CNU, which was a single party in those times. So I think there is that aspect of learning. He's trying to understand what is it that people want, and then say, oh, well, it's a good thing. I can try to give that for you. Okay, I think it's a good idea. I will try to do that. So I think the leadership of Mr. Chiroma, if it's to be successful, it will come down to the enlightenment of the civil society. The civil society has to play an important role, not aligning with any government or the other. Unfortunately, like journalism too, the civil society tends to be captured by one party or the other. But
Dr.
if this,
Dr. Ben Aki, what do you say to those who argue that contesting the results could destabilize the country?
well, the country has been destabilized when you reject the will of the people. That's the most serious destabilization. And I continue to believe that the actions Mr. Professor Ben Bonga has mentioned here, the influence of other countries on the politics of Cameroon, there is one influence which is very negative. And in fact, in this particular election, I can say that my reading of the situation is that the French genuinely wanted the people of Cameroon to have their will respected. But Israel was not in support of that. Israel wants the current government to stay because of the Middle East crisis, Israel finds itself being close friends with Cameroon, Eritrea, Azerbaijan, where dictatorships find mutual support in supporting that country to preserve its occupation of Palestine while getting this support. So there is no destabilization by somebody asking for justice, because justice is always going to be the means by which peace is established in a country. So those who are asking for justice are not the ones destabilizing, but those who
And
are
that reminds
dispensing
me,
that those who are dispensing injustice are actually those who are destabilizing the country.
of Bob Marley's song, Everybody's crying out for peace.
But
None is crying
nobody's
out
crying
for
for
justice.
justice.
What
Yes.
a prophet. What a
Yes.
prophetic song.
He wanted us to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, but because none but ourselves can free our mind.
All right.
So
I'm going
have
to
no
ask
enemy,
you,
have no fear for atomic.
Dr. Ben Aki. Dr. Ben Aki, Biya has been proclaimed winner of the election. He'll be sworn in unless maybe if he falls sick and dies. I don't know. I'm not God. But given that he's alive, it can reasonably be expected that he will be sworn in. As I said, I'm not giving my opinion here, one way or the other. But so if he's sworn in, where do we go from here?
From now till Mr. Biya leaves the presidency, I am pleading with my brothers and sisters in Cameroon who believe that this country belongs to them. Stand up and fight. Stand up and join protest. When I say fight, fight means protest. Because this is the calculation, Mr. Nchamoko. If you have 1 to 3% of Cameroonians on the street in a sustained manner for a couple of weeks, this is going to raise panic with all those who are lending money to Cameroon. This is going to raise the pressure from the international community. This is going to show the government, because this government fears only one thing: it fears protests. And it has succeeded to keep the Cameroonians from going down to the street by telling them that you'll be shot and killed, which is against the law, which is against the law. And we are continuing to say that any military officer who is involved in this, any administrator who is involved in giving instructions, that person will end up at the International Criminal Court. We just want to be clear with our intention. Those of us who are activists, those of us who are talking to the political campaign. The thing is, whether he's sworn in, if he's sworn in, the Constitution has an article on a president resigning. He will step down because the people want him to step down. So I believe that the momentum we have, that momentum has been ignited by a clear understanding that the winner of this election is Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari, by a clear understanding that the results are falsified, and the people are now ready to get to continue to fight till we have victory.
Dr. Ben Aki. Okay, I told you from the start that you'll be given a treat tonight, a combustible, flammable show. And I think that's what you are getting. As a platform, we tried as much as humanly possible, professionally possible, to stay as a third party and not inject ourselves into the debate. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to invite Professor Ben Bongang now for his last word. Doc, the last word, 1 minute.
Yes, I think Cameroon is at a crossroads, and it is one election again that has shown the resolve of the government to have a stranglehold on the system.
And before you continue, sir, somebody's asking what is the number? The number is 240-603-7367. I would love to hear from one person from the audience. 240-603-7367. If you're overseas, you can do WhatsApp 001 and then you take 240-603-7367. The entire planet will hear your voice. Okay, Doc, go ahead.
Yes, wouldn't we hear the question before I wrap up?
Your last word. I was just asking for your last word, sir.
Yes, as I was saying, we cannot expect some miracles to happen. What I foresee is that the incumbent president will be sworn in and the country will limp along. The protests on the streets will eventually fizzle out because of exhaustion, which is understandable. People need to survive. People need to eat. So, but for how long will that with the new government last? That is what we don't know. But what has come out of this process is that, from my position as an observer, this is the first time I've seen this kind of enthusiasm on the streets. And it is an indication that Cameroonians are emboldened and are so eager for change. And the change will eventually come. Democracy is a slow process, but eventually democracy will come. And so that's where we are.
Thank you, Professor Ben Bongang. And the number again is 240-603-7367. I'd like to take at least a call from the audience, the viewers, before we wrap up. If you are on YouTube, please hit the notification bell and subscription button. We've lined up powerful contents for you the day Biya is sworn in. Again, when we interview people, we don't have to like them. We don't have to like what they say. There's nowhere in journalism textbooks that says you only interview people you agree with. No. That's not our editorial policy on Chat Night Africa. So that would be a Biya Day the day he's sworn in. I'd love to take Professor Elvis Ngole Ngole on this platform. If anybody's listening to this and knows him, please you tell him that would love to take him here. I have his number. I will invite him to be my guest here on the Biya Day the day the president is sworn in. And that's not going to be because I necessarily agree with Paul Biya. At this point, let me invite Dr. Ben Aki for his closing remarks. 1 minute, sir.
Thank you for a very lively discussion. I think we have to congratulate ourselves as Cameroonians.
Okay, hold it there, sir. Hold it. We have somebody. Hello. You are live, and the entire planet is listening to you. Just 1 second. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the chance to give my opinion. You are running a show here. This is my country. First of all, my name is Harley Adams from Houston, Texas. I just wanted to make a point since we are talking about the elections. I personally believe. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're listening to you.
Yes, I personally believe that this particular election, is bigger than Paul Biya himself. This election is completely not about Paul Biya. It is about the people that surrounds him. The ministers, the directors, the power-hungry elites who are scared to lose their jobs and their privileges. People like Ngongo, the Rene Sadi, Atanganji, and the rest. They are the ones running the show using Biya's names as a shield to protect their own interests. Let's face it, Paul Biya is 93 years old, a 93 years old great-grandfather. And from all indications, from the videos that we watch, this man has dementia. Sometimes it feels like Biya himself doesn't even want to be president anymore. But those around him won't let him go. They're holding him hostage to protect themselves. We've watched videos where Shanta Biya is holding his hand up, asking him to wave, to greet people. And this is a man that people are clamoring for him to continue to be president and make decisions that will shape the future of their children. It is a shame. For me, personally, I think that Cameroonians have to fight tooth and nail for this election to undo this system that Biya has put in place. Because even after Biya is gone, nothing will change unless we end the system that surrounds him. Because when Biya is gone, one of them is going to replace him. Maybe in a month, 2 months, 1 year from now, you will see Biya will resign. Somehow they will take him out and somebody will replace him. God forbid us that a younger person comes in. With the system that they have put in place, Cameroon will be in bondage for another 4-5 decades.
Okay.
Another thing that I wanted to say is, the last thing I want to say is, the way the military is treating peaceful protesters today in French-speaking Cameroon is exactly how Anglophone crisis began. If the government continue to shoot and brutalize unarmed citizens, it will push people to the edge. And when that happens, we may start seeing guns in Yaoundé and Douala too.
Okay. We have got to go. Thank you so much for articulating so beautifully your thoughts, sir. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Divine.
You're welcome. All right. Now, you may want to wrap up.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for the contribution from the viewer. I think Cameroon is at a critical point, and every Cameroonian who is proud of their country want to make sure that we can say, "This is my country. This is our country. We govern it according to democratic and constitutional means." So we congratulate those who voted, who participated to defend it,
Oh, somebody on
and
the line now. I was calling for calls, they didn't come. Now we have somebody on the line. Hello, sir.
Yes, Mr. Divine Chamukong, thank you so much. And thanks for bringing those two distinguished gentlemen on your platform tonight. I just want to ask them a quick question. Was it a mistake that all the other political parties joined Biya to go into these elections knowing fully well that they would be rigged? Was there another strategy that they could have, formulated, like not going in for the elections at all and hold it at bay like that until the electoral code was changed before they go into these elections? Thank you so much.
Okay, before you answer, I have another caller on the line. Hello.
Hello,
yes,
sir.
Yes,
yes,
sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from Ottawa, Canada.
Okay, sir. Please be brief because we have to go.
Yeah, I just want to say that what is happening in French-speaking Cameroon is not something that we are witnessing today. The people have been living under oppression, and Biya did not came to power through vote. How do you expect him to go out from power through vote? The reason why India has not been termed as a dictator, which we all know most often that the Western countries term African people dictators because they are not answerable to them. The simple reason is because he still remains a watchdog to this regime of France and some other Western allies. That is one of the reasons why he has not been a dictator. And the people are supposed to understand that there is never a day that you can eliminate or you can remove such people, such regimes in place without guns and bullets. That is the only language they understand. Apart from that, there is nothing they understand apart from that which I mentioned.
All right.
So if the people of French Cameroon want to do something, they need to understand the ball game ball. Supposed to act appropriately.
All right.
Not just go to the street to demonstrate peacefully. They need to strategize and reorganize themselves and do something.
Okay, thank you, sir. We've got to go because thank you, sir. I appreciate you. We may not be able to take more calls now because all along we've been asking for people to dial and nobody calls, and we all of a sudden we have the flurry of calls coming in. Yes, please wrap up 30 seconds.
I think the general tenor of the discussion is that people want change, and we should deliver that change. We either deliver it responsibly, or we allow the problem to become uncontrollable, just like what we have ended up seeing in former Southern Cameroons. I congratulate all those who have participated in the process so far, and I encourage you to stay tuned and to listen. I think for now we are taking instructions from Mr. Issa Chiroma as the leader, as the person who has won the election and has a grievance, and we are supporting him because it is really our victory that he indicates. And believe me, if we can provide 3% of people coming out for protest consistently, we are going to obtain the victory. The military is only 0.2%. Prison places are only 0.2% of the population. And that is way, way smaller than those of us who are mobilized and excited. Let's keep the energy. Let's get the victory. And let's have a Cameroon without phobia.
Dr. Ben Aki wrapping up. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we draw the curtain on today's show. I want to thank all of you, everybody who was watching. Unfortunately, we cannot take more calls from the start. I asked for calls to come in. Everybody now wants to call. Okay, Martin says, when next does your show come on the air? I was impressed with the two contributors. Solid gentlemen. All right, Dr. Ben Bongang, did you hear that? Dr. Aki, did you hear that? You are rock solid. You rock. Okay. You will be notified when the next show is coming up. Like I said earlier, I would love to bring on Professor Elvis Ngole Ngole I hear he is the CPDM lecturer in the College of CPDM Militants in Yaoundé. If you know him, please let him know that, inform him that we are giving him an opportunity to come here the day Biya is sworn in or the day after. Our platform is a neutral platform. We are not political activists on Chat Night Africa. I want to make that very clear. We do not interview people on the basis of whether we love them or hate them. That's not our job. I was never taught that in the School of Journalism. Professor Bongan can attest to that. Thank you for watching. My name is Divine Chamukong. If you are watching this on YouTube, please click the subscribe and notification buttons. That is because this show isn't going to be on Facebook after 30 days. Their new policy is to delete videos after 30 days, whereas this is on our website, www.chatnightafrica.net, and on our YouTube channel, just search Chat Night Africa. I want to thank all of you for watching. I want to thank all my guests. We were to have had Dr. Ambe Valentine is currently in Spain, but unfortunately, connectivity problems did not allow him to participate. Whenever we come, and when you hear this, it's time for us to say goodbye.
Jungle Mix.
Yeah, yeah. It's time to say bye-bye on Chat Night Africa. It's time to say bye-bye on Chat Night Africa. You know it's been a pleasure with you, my friend. I can't wait to be here again, to go all over and all over again. Gonna be there until the end. Bye-bye on Chat Night Africa. It's time to say bye-bye on Chat Night Africa. Oh, yeah, yeah. Ooh, 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 ooh. We hope you had a great time watching Chat Night Africa.